Hello and good afternoon. I'm Alex Wood. I'm the editor of Tech City News, and welcome to Emerging Tech, Creativity and Innovation. If you're not already familiar with us, we're also a startup ourselves. We're only 9 months old, and I'm proud to say that we're the leading site for news and everything about tech in London. We have some fantastic speakers in our session today. Each of them will present for just under 10 minutes, and then we'll move into a panel discussion where we'll invite questions from you, the audience. First up, we have HAUPT, and she's the founder of something quite remarkable, and I'm sure very relevant to many of you in this room today, an airbag for cyclists. Let's have a round of applause for our first speaker.
Using them by free will instead of so that was our starting point. This is a big motivation for us, and was also then that people are dying in traffic because of not using bicycle helmets and get really serious damages also. We wanted to improve also the safety aspects in traditional helmets. We didn't want to make a helmet that was only good looking, because we knew there was problems with the traditional bike helmets in safety, and due to the fact that they never had any competition, they didn't need to improve themselves. So if you look at the traditional helmets in the market, you can see that they are amazing. They all the same. And they're made for sports cycling. And we asked ourselves, is bicycling sport? No. For most people in the world, it's not a sport, it's a way of commuting, it's a way of transporting yourself to work, to school, to movies. And then the accessories to the bike should always also be designed for that kind of styles, weather and clothes that you wear in your daily life. The first thing we did was a Swedish questionnaire. We asked people why they aren't using bicycle helmets. And these are the reasons they told us. They're difficult to bring, they're only bad looking ones, they mess up the hair. No one answers it, they're expensive, they have chemicals underneath. And you can think that people are vain and stupid, but it's not the people that are stupid, it's the product that needs to change. It's always the product that needs to change. It's very interesting, you can buy a traditional helmet for 20 euros, but you're not prepared to pay even 20 euros for your life. And that says to me everything about the problems with the products, not the people. So what did they want? Here's some quotes from that questionnaire. Like a good-looking hat with built-in helmet. Small foldables you can put in your pocket. With the possibility to change the looks, like with mobile cameras and this. Invisible. And this was the idea that we liked the best. We also wanted a helmet that was invisible. So we came up with the idea of an airbag helmet. And this idea, we felt So our professor said to us when we told him about the idea and the sketching, I have to sit down, I have to sit down. And then we realized maybe this could be something. And then we didn't know that it was going to take us 7 years to fix the technology behind it. But fortunate for us, we didn't know, so we started trying. First we contacted the airbag industry, of course, but they told us it's not the airbag system that is going to be your biggest challenge. It's the algorithm. It's the dividing of normal cycling from accidents that is going to be really tough for you. We have no experience in that, we can't help you with that. Car industry have the chassis around the person that protects the person and gives us the time we need to inflate the airbag before the hit. We will need to find an algorithm that will feel that the person is inside an accident before a hit. So you need to start there, which we did. We employed people and mathematicians, and we collected data from thousands of bicycle accidents, from crash test dummies, but mostly with people, men and women, to find real movement patterns in bicycle accidents. And we collected data from hundreds and hundreds of hours of normal cycling. And then our mathematicians found this method to divide these two different types of data, and that algorithm is our recipe in our product now. But then we came to the airbag system, and it wasn't that easy that we heard it was going to be. First of all, airbags in cars have to deflate partly before you crash your face into it, because when it's fully inflated, it's too hard to be crashed into your face. So there are big vent holes that makes the gas come out of the airbag. We needed an airbag that was going to be inflated for several seconds through the entire accident to protect the bicyclist for multiple hits in one accident. And also the inflator, we didn't want an inflator with pyrotechnics inside, even though pyrotechnics itself could be okay for a user. We felt there could be a consumer issue, just the feeling of knowing that you have pyrotechnics on you could be a problem. So we wanted to find an inflator without pyrotechnics, and we did that in the end. So Hövding has only helium gas that fills the airbag. It's a cold gas, and the fabrics and electronics combined was a real nightmare, actually, from the design point of view. So far, still, I haven't seen a really successful design in combining electronics and fabrics in a good way, because the fabrics is really soft, as you all know, and the electronics is hard. So, and the LEDs. If you ever use LEDs for any kind of product, go for the white ones, even though they're more expensive. We have had such big problems with the green, yellow, and red ones, even though they are more cheap, and there's a reason for that. It could be a difference between 100 and 200% in intensity. So, yeah, it was a nightmare. And these, also a nightmare. To develop this product with employing 16 people, most engineers, we needed a lot of venture capital. And we met a lot of people saying, be realistic, girls. What you're trying to do is impossible. If it was possible, someone else would have done it already. But this first made us really angry, and it can still make me angry sometimes. But it also was kind of a fuel for us to convince them that they were wrong. We've raised 10 million euros for the development, and it was a lot of blood, sweat and tears, and grey hairs also, unfortunately. But this is Hövding. You can almost not see it. It's meant to be that way. It's meant to be discreet and invisible. And this is also Hövding. And I actually forgot to bring a dummy, but I have a shell with me, so I can show you later if you want to the shell at least. And there's shell around the color, which you can wash and change different climates, different styles. So you can have black ones if you want to, or with patterns like this. The safety is much better than the Genomics. It has a more than 3 times better shock absorbance capacity. It protects much larger areas of the head, as you can see in the picture. It can withstand multiple hits, as I said. The inner and outer hood diminish head rotation. And the airbag stabilizes head and neck in the accidents. And also they have, of course, ease also. No helmet hair, shells, easy to follow, works with that. And even though the media has been really, really intense, people are still very skeptic and don't believe that it's actually working. So I will end with quoting some other people. I got hit by a car a couple of hours ago. Thank you, Hövding, for making this the most pleasant crash I've ever had. Thank you, this great invention saved my life. Thank you.
Really inspiring talk. I'm sure that many of us here in London are really inspired by the potential for that, if any of you are cyclists in the room. Our next speaker is just in time for your lunch to settle. We have KRAMER, and she's the founder of the Centre for Genomic Gastronomy, where they're prototyping alternative culinary futures. Round of applause for Catherine.
Genomic Gastronomy, and I'll just explain a little bit about what we are today. So, let's see, there we go. So it's, we call it an artist-led think tank, and it's run by Zachary Denfeld and myself. And we say that genomic gastronomy is the study of organisms and environments that are manipulated by human food cultures. And we started the centre when molecular gastronomy was really big in the news. So Heston Blumenthal and Fran Adria, and they were sort of celebrated for using or taking a scientific approach to food. But what we saw them doing was really applying chemistry in a very reductive approach to flavour perception. And we thought, well, what if you applied ecology or biology to the art of cooking? And what would that look like? So I would say genomic gastronomy really considers economics, politics, culture and technology and a systems approach to food. And in the background you can see a poster that we've created saying we've always been biohackers. And this is, comes from this idea that we don't really like to talk about nature or things being natural because we've been hacking plant and animal genomes since the dawn of agriculture. So like if you don't talk about nature and just talk about different types of technologies, we can be a lot more specific in our critiques and investigations. So our mission at the centre is to map food controversies, to prototype alternative culinary futures, and to imagine a more just, biodiverse and beautiful food system. And so what we do is we collaborate with chefs, scientists, hackers and activists in Northern Europe America and Asia, and we've disseminated our work through lectures, publications, exhibitions, and meals. And over the next few minutes, I hope to share with you a couple of our projects that we did. So we started in 2010, and our first project was called the Glowing Sushi Cooking Show. And it's a cooking show that finds an unexpected use for the first genetically engineered animal you can buy. And I think the point of this is to also highlight throughout my talk that people are going to do unexpected things with technology. Just put that out there. So, basically, it's perhaps our most controversial and direct action project, but our stated goals were to challenge the normative positions on GMOs, to satirize the innovation paradigm, and to highlight that people are going to do unexpected things in technology. And the glowing fish was the first available genetically modified animal of it on the market in the US, and we were interested in the legal framework that enabled this to be sold. And it's sold as a pet in aquarium stores, and at the end of the day, it's just fish. And the cooking show was also designed to preempt another genetically engineered fish to make sushi with, which was the aqua bounty salmon, which is still going through FDA approval process. But curiously, it's being released, or is going through the process to be released as a drug. And whereas this, zebrafish is being approved as a pet, the salmon, sorry, I keep looking at is being approved as a pet. The salmon, which is obviously a food, is being approved as a drug. And so the question is sort of, what are the unintended consequences of this? And what are the unintended uses? Perhaps people want to start having aqua salmon as pets in their backyard. And so, with the Glowing Sushi Cooking Show, we also wanted to sort of touch on this idea of innovation and what is innovation. And, the glowing sushi came from a genetically modified zebrafish, which was never supposed to leave the lab, and then it was innovation that helped it become a product on the market. And beyond that, we like to say that we innovated by cooking with it. And this is sort of, some people are appalled by this idea, but then you can ask, well, where is the line for innovation, and what is good and what is bad innovation? So, there's another picture. And we also got various YouTube comments, some which wanted to chop our arms off, but there was actually quite an interesting discussion that happened, and people were talking about the toxicology of GFP and various things like that. So we really wanted to try and create a more public debate, and over time I think it's working. And so at the centre we have a really broad definition of biotechnology. And the idea of this is to really contextualize emerging technologies in a longer linear lineage. So, for example, what would happen if you sat down cheesemakers and biotech scientists in a room to discuss policies going forward? Or how would the GMO debate in the UK have turned out if people had considered the mutagenesis research that happened in the 50s? And that kind of brings me to our next project that I want to talk about, which was Cobalt 60 sauce. And it's a barbecue sauce that's created from mutation-bred varieties of plants. And so a little bit of the history of this. In the 50s, after the Second World War, there was nuclear sort of resources and people didn't know what to do with them. And because there was no war anymore, so they decided to try and find peaceful applications for this technology. So one thing that happened was exposing plants to radiation to create random mutations and then selecting the good ones, or the ones that looked better for whatever reason, and to test them further and breed them. And so as a little experiment, we found out about this on a blog somewhere, and thought, well, what's the real world sort of consequences of this? We went to a local supermarket and bought the 3 grapefruit varieties they were selling, and tested by looking at these varieties of the IAEA's database and discovered that 2 of the 3 were in fact from this breeding program. So we created a sauce which contains various mutation-bred plant varieties. For example, the golden promise barley, Rio red grapefruit, and Murray's Mitcham peppermint. And there's a whole host of these plants available at your local supermarket. It just takes a little bit of digging. I'm going to skip quickly through some of our other projects. Sorry. And just end up on Food Freaking, which is a publication that we've recently completed. And there's been a lot of talk of food hacking, and what that often means is hardware hacking in the kitchen, so creating DIY sous vide machines and other techniques to play around in the kitchen. And so we thought, well, what would, the way that hacking is to freaking, I don't know how many of you know about the phone freaking history, but basically it's exploring and exploiting the phone systems and understanding them. So we thought, well, what would food freaking look like? So we created this little publication to outline what it is and what it isn't. And the tagline is Explorations, Experiments and Exploits in Human Food Systems. So, roughly speaking, food freaking is at the intersection of food, technology and open culture. And we devised these 4 quadrants, and along one axis is open and closed, and the other is illegal and legal. And I'd say food freaking sits more on the upper open section, but is sort of blurred between what's legal and illegal, sort of like civil disobedience versus just protest, for example. And so quadrant A is open source food science and participatory food design, and there's little stories that show examples of each of the 4 quadrants throughout the book. And all of the images used are Creative Commons licensed and from the public domain. And again, I'd just like to end with, we've always been biohackers. So thank you very much.
And finally, our last speaker, we have Guardian columnist Damien Walter. He'll be discussing the potential for technology to restructure consumer capitalism. Round of applause for Damien.
Good afternoon, and hello everybody. I will indeed be getting to the potential of technology to restructure consumer capitalism, which is a rather large issue. But first of all, I want to start off with something a little bit less serious. Possibly, I want to talk to you about science fiction, which is largely what I write about. How many of you in the room are fans of science fiction? Many hands at the back. I'm sure there are more. I'm sure that some of you are possibly still closet fans of science fiction, and you feel that it's not safe for you to come out of your closet. And I'm partly here today to say that it is safe. That here today, in 2013, it's good to be a geek. And I think that we're kind of proving that at this conference today. We need more people who are passionate in how they see the technology that is ahead of us. And I want to talk a little bit about why I think it is that science fiction is important. We're talking today about moonshots, the big visionary ideas that we need to shape our emerging technologies. The idea of a moonshot itself was first imagined in a work of science fiction, From the Earth to the Moon, by the great Jules Verne. It's just one reason why I believe science fiction, a literature born in pulp magazines that's come of age on the cinema screen and in video games, has much to offer beyond light entertainment. I write about this and related subjects of culture and technology for The Guardian and Wired UK, and SFX magazine and EO Online, which I'm going to come to. There are actually 2 Damien Walters on the internet. I am not either a Hollywood stuntman or a parkour expert, so if you're Googling me at the moment, that might make it easier to find. I'd like to suggest that, far from being light entertainment, science fiction offers a more accurate commentary and analysis of very real events in our real world than, say, the 24-hour corporate news cycle. Take, for example, the relentless news coverage of our current economic predicaments. You don't have to read too far into any analysis of the economic crash of 2008, whether left or right-wing, conservative, libertarian or anti-capitalist, to encounter a mention of automation. The hastening substitution of human jobs with technological alternatives is a major factor destabilising our modern economy. It's also, I think we can all agree, at the heart of some of the injustices in our modern economy. An automated factory filters a great deal of wealth up. It trickles almost none down. Automation won't be the headline of the news story, though, or anything more than a sideline in the theatre of the news, where the main actors are political agendas that have very little connection to the realities of technological change. We're within spitting distance of Google autonomous cars that will provide us with thousands more hours to view advertisements. They will also get rid of millions of well-paid jobs for drivers in the process. But the public understanding of automation is almost nothing at all, unless they read science fiction. Anyone who's read Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom by the author and activist Cory Doctorow is absorbing a prescient model of a post-scarcity future where automation has rendered work in any traditional most irrelevant. They'll also be picking up a masterclass in the power of networks, which, whether you look at the open source software movement, or the phenomenon of BitTorrent piracy, or the social media-powered revolutions of the Arab Spring, are running circles around the established hierarchical structures of society. But science fiction also provides the lingua franca for the ways hierarchies and authority will, and inevitably are, reasserting themselves. If the NSA's ability to spy on your email and social networks makes you think of Big Brother, it's only because of George Orwell's masterpiece of totalitarian horror, 1984, which is incidentally a touchstone for both the left and right wing in society. Everyone can see possible problems arising from it. The biggest cultural event of the last week is the release of Grand Theft Auto 5, a video game that immerses its players in a world of pure violence, with almost no moral framework. Something that could be culled from the pages of Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. You may sense here an edge of cynicism in my attitude to science and technology and the assumption of progress that more often than not comes packaged with both of these ideas. Earlier this year I wrote for the wonderful Eon magazine of Ideas and Culture about the idea of a future society transformed by technology. We're caught in the paradigm of a consumer culture. Our references to consumers have come up often during the event today. It's a dysfunctional and unsustainable and profoundly unjust model of society that requires ever greater levels of consumption to avoid its collapse. And while I don't intend to convince you of this here and now, I put it to you that our consumer culture is collapsing. Can we then replace our consumer culture with what you might think of as a creator culture? Can we take a culture that has us working ever harder and ever longer in ever more competitive and aggressive environments for an ever-multiplying list of consumer products that deliver us ever less real happiness, and replace it with a culture that harnesses technology to liberate human creativity? Can we achieve the 15-hour work week predicted by economist John Maynard Keynes, and instead turn our energies to the things that bring us real happiness: art, science, learning, friendship, family, love? Not monitors of our risks that are being followed, by our bosses all the time. It's an idealistic vision. I invite you to Google the creator culture and find out a little bit more of it online. I'm run over, so I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Now we'll break for a panel discussion. I'm really keen to get as many of you involved as possible. We only have about 10 minutes left in the session, so please do keep your questions as brief as possible. I'm just going to kick off and just throw out a question there. Is all innovation a good thing? Who would like to answer that?
I think what my work is often trying to say is that not necessarily, or to problematize that and get into questioning. And by pulling something to its extreme endpoint and actually doing it on some level, I think is really uncomfortable for people. And it's important to do that when we're talking about emerging technologies to see, oh, is this really where we want to be headed, and what are the, for example, policies we can put in place or regulations to steer it in a way that we want it to go.
You touched on so many things in your talk. Do you think there's a greater consciousness of good innovation and the kind of morality behind it?
Yeah, I think there is, but we're lacking, for most of us anyway, to look at this vastly complex future that's opening up in front of us and take any specific technology and say, is this going to be a good or a bad thing? So one of the things I would argue is that we need to think again about what our basic principles are. One thing I put forward is to say, take the idea of creativity. It's often placed out there as, if you have this new technology, it might create some more time for people to be creative. Let's turn that around and say, how can we take this technology and use it to help as many people as possible become creative in their life?
I would hope that people start in the other end by, before they actually find a solution on the technology, they find the need and the demand from people. And then they fix the technology that they need to be able to reach those goals. Instead of developing a lot of technology and you don't know what's going to be used for. I think that's much harder and it's time consuming.
Yes, a good question over there.
So, my question is mainly for Amy. What's stopping us moving to this 15-hour work week that's been long foretold? Why do we seem to be working as long as ever? Now, are other parts of the world that are doing it better than us? Or are we going to be stuck with lengthening work hours for the foreseeable future?
The first time I wrote about it as an issue, I came at it from a real technologist perspective. We just need enough technology and we'll get there. And I was shot down in flames by commenters who said, we've had the technology since the Industrial Revolution, or earlier. And really it actually comes down to issues in human psychology that keep relating us back to competition as opposed to cooperation, that put status structures in place instead of friendships and relationships. So I think it is about how we deal with our own human psychology, basically, and we're still so lacking in real tools to do that.
But I think it's also, technology doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's influenced by economics and culture and social situations, and I'm from Norway, and there it's all about policy, and there's very real policies that say you can only work this amount of time, and if you don't, can be oppressive in some way. You know, I want to work more. You'd never think to hear people saying that, but it happens. And I think that there needs to be more conversation happening between policies and regulations and technologies and what people actually want.
So no prospect for any change soon, by the time.
Well, I think there's bottom up and top down can talk to each other. And
Can I take another question? Yes, at the back of the room there.
My question is, how do we get to a point where it's natural for people to be comfortable about talking about these ideas of it's an invisible light on their hacking or food or science fiction? Like, two examples of my kids love talking to their friends about what their dad looks like in the future, and their friends love hearing about all the wacky stuff. But up until very recently, the teachers have always closed them down when they talked about alternative ideas to the mainstream curriculum. And they always said, about happy language. So how do we get to the point where the education system actually celebrates people talking about different perspectives, alternative perspectives, challenging things work? I think that's where we have to start, so that it's naturally comfortable for society to consider a wide range of alternatives to what our parents are offering.
Is that directed at you?
Well, it's all through.
Well, I know there's people working with this problem in schools around the world. There's an Indian woman that started this huge project. It's a lot of schools in the world working with it right now. And it's about making children know that they can be creative in a way that they can actually change the world. And they start with really small improvements in their own schools and in their own home environment, and then they see that they can actually make that small change, and that can make them believe in the future as well. So I think that's one really good way of getting. It's important to know your own capabilities, I would say. And that's the most important thing, so you should actually realize what you can do.
I'm just going to jump in and take in one last question. We've just got a couple of minutes left. If anyone in the room has any further questions? Yes, gentlemen.
What differentiates the design of
Yes, once, but cooked. And when it's cooked, the protein is denatured, so it's no longer glowing. And I did read a lot about the toxicology of GFP, and there's debates of whether it is or isn't, and yeah, you're shaking your head, no, it's not. And so I wasn't worried. So, yeah, it was fine. It tasted like a tiny fish. No.
On that note, I think that's a great time to finish. I want to say thank you to HAUPT, to KRAMER, and also to Hövding